In 12 minutes, you find yourself stuck in a time loop of, well,
No. Oh, no.
12 minutes. The name of the game. Yeah, also twice the amount of time that you lasted with your first girlfriend.
What did you say?
If you like my terrible jokes, subscribe now so I can pepper more into my other videos. 12 Minutes is a new Xbox/PC game that was released fairly recently, on Game Pass as well, which is how I played it. Nobody asked for my opinion, but here I am to give it to you anyway. Aren't I kind? Also, I am a little bit of a sucker for these kind of point-and-click adventure type of games, even what I consider the more sophisticated type of these games that Telltale, for example, is known for. I know nothing I am saying here is unique or special or maybe even interesting, and I may spoil major parts of the game, so if that's something you care about, well, by all means, you should go. Like now. 12 Minutes, I don't think it's far-fetched to say, is a very love it or hate it type of game. Now, I fall into the latter camp. Not like a camp filled with ladders, if one such thing exists, but as in I did not like it very much or enjoy it. For me, there's just very questionable design decisions that just kept this game from really striking that chord for me that it really needed to. You're stuck in this time loop, and your basic goal throughout is to try and do various things throughout these different loops to try and trick the various characters into giving you more information than you would have had otherwise, or they would have given to you otherwise, but having the knowledge you do after experiencing the same events over and over allows you to begin to unravel the mystery of this time loop and why you're stuck in it. I'll just say right off the bat that I think the cast of James McAvoy, Daisy Ridley, and Willem Dafoe do an excellent job with what they are given. They do sound great and are very believable throughout, and I would even say that I had to remind myself multiple times that Daisy Ridley voiced the wife because she does a great American accent, I guess.
Water?
Oh, yeah, thanks. I was about to grab some.
Even if the game doesn't give them much to work with all the time, they all do a great job. Now, I do want to point out the game's radar guide for the game had an incredible line that I think sums up what 12 Minutes basically is and how I felt about it. They said, "The all-star cast hides a basic point-and-click adventure that buries its clues and makes progression an absolute needle-in-a-haystack hunt." And I think that's a perfect summation of exactly how I felt about this game. The game starts by having you walk forward through a hallway. It tells you two basic things at the start. Use the cursor on the screen to point and click ahead so your character can move. Click on interactable objects to, well, interact with them. Later, they tell you that you can combine certain objects by dragging them together or have them interact with other things and the other characters. But that's pretty much it. Your wife is excited about something, which you find out is baby clothes she bought because, surprise, she is pregnant and wanted to tell you over your favorite dessert. Then a supposed cop shows up and begins to arrest you and your wife. He doesn't explain what he is after or for what, but he is able to bitch slap you and your wife to death with relative ease.
What is this?
You need to tell us what is going on.
You can't just
I
come in
warned
like this.
Don't fucking move. I didn't want to do that. You made me do that.
Dead? Dude's got a mean right hook, I'll say that. And that's the extent of what you know and what you're given. You'll repeat this loop multiple times trying to prove to your wife that you're stuck in this time loop and convince her of the information you learned in the previous loops, which is how you progress it all in the game, by experimenting with different ways of playing out the events to learn more information about what is going on, or a puzzle game that seemingly obscures all the pieces where you just have to kind of click everything and see what progresses the narrative or what's a dead end. In lies this incredibly obtuse and questionable design mechanic where the game refuses to acknowledge your progress beyond your character seemingly being aware of the time loop, maybe being able to convince your wife a little quicker every other time, and having the chance to ask different questions with each loop. Otherwise, there's no thoughtful peeling back of the layers with each run, as much as it is guess what to do next. It never feels like it's about being clever, more like you're operating with no information and again, playing a guessing game. For example, how is the player to know that you can go into the bathroom in the medicine cabinet and grab the sleeping pills and then mix it into water and then give it to your wife? Whereby you then go into the bedroom, and because the light switch is shorting out, you turn it on where you get shocked, and then when she goes into the bedroom to lay down and fall asleep, you turn it off. And then you go and hide in the closet where the cop comes in and opens the door, and he goes and investigates into the bedroom and then turns the light switch on, in which he gets shocked and knocked out. And then you go over and you take all the items off his person, tie him up and shoot him in the leg, so that way you know that you can get him to cooperate. Did you know that you could do all that? You can, but There's no indication that you could, you just have to kind of try it until you get there, I guess. I mentioned Games Radar before, and I had to use their guide to get through at some point because the tedium of just clicking on random objects and hoping it uncovers plot or details you need to advance wore thin very quickly.
The light switch. What about the light switch? What about the pills? What about the plastic candles? Oh, shit. Yeah, you did. Okay, something else. Yeah, what about that?
What about it?
I'm not sure.
Cool.
I played for about 2 hours on Twitch. Oh, and I have a Twitch, by the way. You should follow that. Weird time to promote it, but hey, I'm there. So show you boys some love. Anyway, I played for 2 hours, got so frustrated by the continuous vagueness of the game that I turned it off and uninstalled it. An hour later, after I relaxed, I reinstalled it and tried again. Playing 12 minutes is basically like if I gave you a 300-piece puzzle to put together, but I didn't show you what it's supposed to look like when it's finished. And the pieces were also not all in the box, and I hid some around your apartment because I thought it would be pretty fun for you to figure it the f*** out. And you'd probably figure it out at some point. You're a pretty smart lad, I imagine. But for me, that is the fundamental disconnect for me that made the solving of the mysterious time loop puzzle more of a tedious humdrum of clicking on objects. Not correct? Okay, click on the next object. Well, that didn't work. What about this? No? Well, shit. It was so hard to enjoy because I kept hitting walls and making mistakes. A new clue you uncovered is exciting, only to the point where you then have to hit the right dialogue option or present a character with the right object at the right time to then progress further, which can result in you repeating certain loops multiple times in the same way, adding more repetitiveness on top of a concept that guarantees you're gonna hit some of the same beats all the time, every time. I imagine the argument in defense here could be something along the lines of, it's a puzzle game and it's not meant to be spelled out. Definitely, and I agree. But what you end up doing is less detective work and more, that was interesting. Now what if I do this? It doesn't help in fact also that the game is quite precise with timing, but misclicking is especially frustrating and it happens very often. You click on things you didn't intend to click on or open and shut doors accidentally, and it can be the difference between you repeating a loop sequence or missing a prompt to find out more about the story to progress it later. I mentioned before that you can use items, and you do that by accessing your inventory. You have the inventory in the top screen that is accessible via waving your cursor over it, and again, it's incredibly vague on information and doesn't offer suggestions or hints as to what to do with any of the objects. Furthermore, trying to approach characters with objects will not work at times because they're stuck in an animation that can't be interrupted until they've been completed, which is fine, but it can make some of those tense moments feel a bit underwhelming when your wife is begging you for help, and all you can muster is to pace around awkwardly until it's your turn to do stuff. And again, guess what objects you can use on what, and what is just dragging items on certain things and seeing what happens. It's like your own personal top-down view sluggish playground where your test subjects are your wife and your cop dad voiced by the Green Goblin. Something that I think would have helped a lot, at least gameplay wise, things like the character offering hints via his own thoughts on what the player should be doing if they're just standing around or not sure. Optional for the hardcore folks, of course. Small descriptions for various items in your inventory you can review, and maybe something like a small journal where you can, as the player, review the material yourself when necessary. That would all help to make some of the sleuthing and investigating about and somewhat questionable methods of acquiring information exponentially more engaging, and it would make the player feel like you're actually doing detective work than just saying, shit, it's the book, it's gotta be the book. It's not the book. Until it kind of is the book. Speaking of, I guess I'll briefly touch on the story. On its own, the story itself is fine, if not somewhat also lacking. I would argue it's the most intriguing aspect of 12 minutes, but the problem is in the fact that you're repeating such tedium every few minutes to the point where by the time I reached the end of the story, I was a bit disillusioned. I would say it's definitely a story that you'll probably either love how dark and twisted it and even misleading, in a purposeful way of course, that it is, or maybe turned off and thrown for a loop at the multiple twists and turns throughout the short runtime. But that's just me, I was kind of turned off and thrown for a loop at the multiple twists and turns. Having a game about a twisted dude who after learning the love of his life is his half-sister, and he's just kind of like, half-sister you say? That's just kind of like second or third cousins, right? No, it's not. I recognize there is a theory that this whole situation never actually happened and it all happened in his mind, and the ultimate ending is that he chooses to forget her and not pursue a relationship with his sister. I get that, but it was an absurd twist upon absurd twist upon absurd twist that made it hard to really latch onto any of the various plot threads. The wife killed her father? Gasp. The wife didn't actually kill the father? Gasp. The father was killed by the son of his mistress, also his son? Gasp. You are your wife's half-sibling the entire time? The one who killed your poor old daddy-o in a bid to be with her? Gasp! So I have a feeling that this is not going to be a popular video, and I know nobody asked for my opinion on this game, but I felt like I wanted to share it anyway. And I can definitely see why some people are enjoying this game and why its mystery and intrigue can be engaging for some of you, or at least more than it was for me. It's just those clunky and obscure mechanics combined with the lack of proper execution of its narrative that made it a major miss for me all around. I mean, look, it took me over an hour to figure out what I was supposed to be doing and another 2 hours following a guide step by step to see what I had to do, because again, it was really hard to even know where to begin. But wherever you fall in this game, I really did want to talk about it here because I've seen glowing reviews and harsh critiques of this game and was kind of fascinated by it enough to bring you this video. I hope I explained myself well enough and you at least understood why I came to the conclusion that I did. But really, I want to hear from you. What do you think? Am I wrong? Right? Did you play it? Did you like it? Let me know in the comments down below. Thumbs up the video if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. All links will be in the description below. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and thanks for watching. I'll talk to you all soon, and I love you all. Well, maybe. I am very sorry that this video is not 12 minutes on the dot.